Yeah, if you would. Oh, oh yeah. If you okay, I've got everybody, and let me open this up for a minute. Alyssa, Jarrett, I see Kristen and Tyre. Glad to see all of you. Now I'm going to ask you to mute your microphones and your videos, so that, and if you have a question, you can raise your hand and it'll show up. I'll get a little blinking thing and it will show up, and I can try to answer it for you. If you, the other thing I would say to everybody is, if you have something you don't want to discuss like that or some other issue, please note, everybody, I've got the virtual office hours. I've posted these in every class. Today they're from 3:30 to 5:30. Same story on Wednesday. And the virtual office is just like here. You click you click on the link when it's open, and you come in, and I can answer any questions, help you share screen if you got a question about scores, or you got something in terms of advice, any of those kinds of things. I'm happy. Now, a lot of times people just simply send me an email, and that's fine, not a problem. I usually get the email within a matter of hours. I want to just do some simple housekeeping for us here and kind of make sure that we're on track and where we are in the course. And obviously, of course, we have today the class, and this is the 13th, okay? And I've got the invitation for today, and then an invitation for Thursday the 15th. And let me say this. I know the spring break is coming up. I'm well aware of it. And I know a lot of times students will head out the door on Thursdays. I'll be in Shawnee on Thursday for the usual ground-based. I have this class, and then I have a class at 6. So I'll be there. But if you're going to be traveling, I don't have any issue at all if you, as long as you check in with your work and everything and get it done, to take off. So if you have your own machine, or you can go home and you have a machine at home and you take your books and do your work there, I'm fine. Just know that you've got some stuff that's due this week. But again, that's why I have the recording, to make it convenient for people if they should need it, or if you're in an athletic contest or somewhere like something of that nature. Now, that being said, I want to go down to the modules, okay, and walk us through where we are in the course. So open up the modules section. All right. Here we go, and put this up here. All righty. And we come down to today. Might as well just scroll on down today. And this is modules. Or week 6. Okay. I'm gonna have to get some uniformity in how I refer. Some of these are called modules. Some of them I call weeks. It's really the same. Today is, of course, the 13th, and you have two quizzes due. Okay. And that's the one over the Stephen Few text, Show Me the Numbers, chapters 7 and 8. And then you have the tests over chapter 9 and 10. If you're smart, you'll do them before you leave town, and then you won't have anything to worry about. Now, what am I going to do today? Well, today we're going to start talking about using databases, and we're going to work. We have 6 access cases that we'll be working with. Now, I always go through this thing with some people that say, well, I have a Mac. Well, if you do, then go to the lab, okay? And you can work over there. Usually what I'll do is I'll go through the screencast. I'll show you what to upload, like this, for example. I have several files in the files. You'll see that you can upload to get the credit for the workshop. The main thing to me is that you see the video. If you're in the lab today over at school, or you're in your room with a computer and you have access and all that, then fire it up and follow along. And then, of course, always want to encourage you, especially as we get into this section, when you view a recording, you can always, two things. First of all, if it helps you to take it in chunks of 15 minutes or 20 minutes and then stop, I would do that. And you can always write down the hour and the minute point where you stopped. And it's the same thing if you have questions. If you say, well, Dr. Harmon, at 42 minutes, 36 seconds, I had a question about this. That allows me to go in there and take a look at it and try to give you an answer or maybe some additional assistance, okay? Now, obviously next week is break. There are no classes. And so we'll come back, and on week 8 you'll have work due, but it will be due at the end of that week. Okay. Now I also wanted to make sure as we work on these access cases, they are in the Solve It 6.0 textbook. Okay. And there are 6 cases. And if you look over at chapter 4 in the Solve It textbook, page 133, it talks about what is a database, all right? And we'll talk about that. And I think all of you are familiar enough with Access, or I'll get you familiar enough with it if you didn't do that much in 1103, to get rolling and get going. And then, as you can see, starting at page 149, we have the database management cases, and we're going to work 6 cases, all right? Now, as I said before, I'll work the case, and I'll say, okay, you can upload this, or you can upload one of the other finished products that are there. And here's the deal. Over time, as I've taught this course, okay, and this is the same thing I've done with spreadsheets. I'll put in a little, I add a bell or a whistle here or there, and just kind of provide you a repertoire of stuff to see. The main thing is that you watch the video, okay? And if you have your machine, you can try to work on it. And sometimes I think it's, if you have a phone, you can go in and look at the video. It's a YouTube video, and you could look at that with your machine at the same time and stop, the video and go forward. The other thing is I have those so you can go in, open them up, all right, and look at them and see how things are put together. And this is going to take you a couple of cases or so till you get to that point, all right? So I want to make sure that you get that. The final thing is this, is, again, when we do some work, download that file. Okay, I always show you this. Download it to your device. Okay, rename it. Okay, and then open it and then close it, so I don't end up having you turn in a system file or a temporary file that I can't do anything with. All right, and so I've got this one, for example. I upload this for access case number 1 assignment. I have some other files in there in the files section that are there. So I'm going to just pop over here for a minute since we're talking about it. Okay. Here's something on access case 1. Let's see. I had some Zoom recordings for all 6 cases. Those will be helpful for you to take a look at. You can see I've got access DB1 key, access 2. Here's 3 done, 4 done. You get my drift, okay? I tweak them and do little different things with them each time, so I'm okay with that because they're always a work in progress. This is really the same as the spreadsheets, because there are times when, I've done a little bit something different with each spreadsheet. And the main thing is, do we get the tasks accomplished that they ask us to do in the case? Well, before we get to any of the cases, we're going to just take a look and find out a little bit about what a database is. And if you go over to page 133 in your textbook, and you should always have it with you, they give us an introduction to database software. Now, there are three types of databases. One's called hierarchical, the other's called a network, and a third is called relational. And we work with relational databases, okay? And those are the predominant databases, because the whole idea is we take a table and we link it to another table, and then we run a query and we harvest the data from those two tables or whole strings of table, or we run a query on just one table. Now I want to go back here into the files section for a moment, okay? And so that you can understand. And one of the things you need to understand is that databases are so obsequious that most people don't realize. If you go shop, okay, online, you're using a database that someone has embedded into an e-commerce site. And if you fill out, when you enter a password and user ID, you're basically filling out what we call an input mask. And so databases are around us everywhere, and they have a tremendous impact on business. They've really had the same impact that spreadsheets did when they first came into being, because databases allow us to take sets of information and relate them, a relational database, okay? Now, I'm going to come down here, and I'm in the files area, and of course you see here's a case 1, and you're used to seeing my view of everything. Now I don't think you see this little toolbar where I control the meeting and the pause the recording, all that stuff, but I know you see this other stuff where you see the green check marks. Those are files that are open, okay? And again, you'll see I've got like access case 3 as a work in progress. We stopped at a certain point, and so I try to kind of work through these. Now you remember we've talked about the analytical cube, and we had a good segue into using databases when we had case 13 Pacific Trading, where we worked with the pivot table. And you notice how we were able to drill down, or to drill across, or drill diagonally and get data. And you remember we could express values as percentages of a row, percent of a column, dollars, that whole bit. There are three most powerful tools in Excel are Excel's solver, which is an optimization design tool. And I would say also all of those that are in the what if analysis, and then finally the rand between and the randomize function in Excel. And again, I'm not sure how to I don't know what I can tell you in terms of how important databases have become, other than the fact that your car is a database that collects all kinds of information about your driving, and it won't be in my lifetime, but it will be in yours. That probably by the time you're my age, you'll be paying insurance that maybe has a base amount you pay, but will fluctuate according to your driving habits. And at a certain point, the insurance companies are going to say, when every car on the road costs 50 or 60 grand, not just luxury vehicles, and we're going to come to that place, okay, we already have the so-called lower tier cars in the 20s. Insurers are going to say, look, since we insure you, we want to see how you drive. So they'll have all kinds of data they collect. If they can access it if they want to. Do you speed? Do you cut people off? I think it's Geico that installed a camera. So you know, your cars and all these things that we have computers embedded in them now are and data stored in the cloud. A database is a way we get that stuff, we store it, and we get to it and we access it, okay? And so it's changed the way we do business because it's offered us a way to make it easier for people to choose their brands. Now, before I get into this, I want to show you. And as I said before, we worked pretty fast through the Excel cases because you're all pretty much familiar with it. But a lot of folks really don't know or understand much about databases. I'm going to click on Amazon. I'm going to click a new tab here, excuse me. I'm going to click on Amazon. Okay. And open it up. And at Amazon, Amazon is an e-commerce store, okay? But it's also, it's a database for all intents and purposes with a shopping cart system. And so you can see they're basically showing me ways that I can drill down and choose products, etc. They might even recommend some stuff for me. Okay, and this is technically called a recommendation engine. And so, you know, these are powerful databases, are powerful tools. And the one thing that will set you apart from everybody else when you go out to apply for a job is that you will have a good understanding of a database and how to use it and how it works. So, you know, this is very well worth your time to do this. Now, I'm going to go back here for a moment, okay? And let's just take a look. Now, here's a whole set of things. And the thing that Amazon did that was so smart was they took this stuff, okay, and they put it into the icons are these pictures. So notice they recommend some books for me to read. Here's a new album that's coming out. They've got some live streaming of something going on there. There's basics, home shredders, unexpected gifts. We were looking for a little bed for our dog. And so here's some doggy beds because I went and we did a search. And here's some other types of clothing items we've looked for, or I have. And so again, this is really a recommendation engine, but it also is based upon concepts that we use in a database. And databases are everywhere. You're just not even aware a lot of times you're using them. Now, I'm going to close off Amazon for a minute, okay, and I'm going to go back to the files, and I want to talk about this notion of the analytical cube, all right? And so I'm going to download it, okay? And we'll talk about what we're seeing because it gives us an important idea. And again, we're working with what we call relational databases. And the relational database is a way I take one set of records and relate them to another, okay, in order to get combinations of data that I wouldn't get otherwise, okay? Now, I'm going to open the cube up for a minute, and you've seen it before, and we talked about when we started the course. And so I'm going to scrunch it up a little bit more here for you. And if you take a look, you're going to see what we call dimensions or characteristics or factors, pardon me, or variables. Notice we've got products, okay? Then we've got an outdoor, then we've got retailers. Then we have dates. Now, you see these little questions, and I'll scrunch this up just a hair more, okay? And you can see that we can ask questions, and these questions, we call them queries, Okay. And here, look at what we're asking. How much revenue? Revenue is what we call a fact, something I can measure. Okay, I can perform a mathematical operation with it. Okay, how much revenue was generated by sports stores, and that's a type of outlet. Okay, through outdoor protections in total. So outdoor protections is one of our vendors, pardon me, outdoor protection is one of the products that we carry in terms of product categories, and sports store is one of our clients or customers. And notice how I've got this cube, and I can slice this cube, and at the end I've pulled data. I've pulled revenue data. I've gotten it by date, okay, and I've gotten by product and by retailer. And we were able to do this a little bit when we worked with the pivot tables, but with a database, it really amplifies all of that. Now, the holy grail for all of that is for us to get a picture, for example, of a customer. You notice when I went into Amazon and I was showing, I said, yeah, I shop for that type of item. Yeah, I shop for that type of item. Yeah, I bought some books. And so what Amazon did, as it tracked every click I made, it has a Keith Harmon table somewhere, okay? And that table has the clicks and the day and the time and how long I stayed. And that's why Amazon Web Services, AWS, is the most profitable part of the company, far more profitable than the retail operation that they have. And a lot of people don't know this. In fact, Amazon Web Services is so good, a lot of governments come to them to use their services in archiving data. Plus, we have this thing called the cloud. You've heard people talk about that, and that's where we have devices embedded in. Well, you have people have wearable computers. You have a Fitbit. You've got computers embedded in your car, sensors. You've got smart appliances. You've got security systems that generate data, on and on. So the key is to take all the data, okay, and convert it to information, something that I can use to make a decision, all right? And I'm going to scroll that off a little bit, okay? Now we'll go back, and I'm going to see if I had put the Q in here, because I wanted to talk about it a little bit as far as it relates to what we're trying to get done. No, I didn't. Okay, too bad. Should have done that. I'll have to do that next time. Well, let's talk about the textbook very briefly. And if you go over to page 136 in the text, figure 4.2, you're going to see the basic components of a database. Now, by the time you leave us, you will have worked with SAS, SAP, Oracle, and Microsoft databases. So when you go and apply for a job, you can always say, I have pretty good experience having worked with databases. That's going to set you apart from other students out there, people looking for jobs, because they've worked with spreadsheets. And I'm convinced they probably don't even have anywhere the level you're going to have when you leave. But certainly they have very little experience with databases. This course is called Data Administration. And what that means is we focus on how we relate data tables, how we create them, how we run queries, how we generate reports from those, and overall, why do we use the information why do we collect the data we do? How do we turn it into information? And so you're going to get a peek behind the scenes, what we would call the back office operations, as we work with Access. Access lets you and me be an administrator of the database and do whatever we want to do. Okay, and we're going to see that as we work through. Now, databases have all of the components that are listed there on page 136. And the heart of it is the table. The table is where I collect information. Now, one of the challenges we have today is that so much of the data we have is not in what we would call a structured format. It's unstructured. So we have to work through it and clean it up, and so we can put it real nicely into a table and do something with it. Okay, so at the heart of it, the other is the query engine, which allows us to ask questions of the database, okay, of the table or tables, and pull out the information we're after. And remember, information for decision making. Then we have something called knowledge, okay, which is information that can be replicated, and in other words, it can be duplicated, and that it will provide us that it's applicable in similar or identical contexts. And then finally, you have business wisdom, and that is where we've come to understand enough about a particular business and the flows and the patterns. We're better off. You know, when you go for your annual physical, okay, they draw your blood. Why do they draw your blood? Because that's how the doctor, okay, can send your blood off to somebody, and they can analyze that blood for different things, like how much sugar do you have in your blood? How high is your sugar? Do you have bad cholesterol, or what's known as bad cholesterol? Is there anything else there that may give us a warning? Well, it's the same way with a database, and we can get the feeling of how things are going, and we can take a look at how the company's performing. But another piece of it is that we can respond to stakeholders like employees, our folks with whom we do business, okay, or folks who are our suppliers, or all of the above, okay. And so I can't impress upon you how databases now are the technology. And here's something interesting, okay? Think about all the social media that's out there. Everything from the gamut of Facebook to Instagram, and you know, or videos. You know, somebody, you know, might say, well, how many videos are out there about how to put together a database? I've never counted, but I can tell you this. After I'm through the session, you know, you'd be smart to go over it at times and go over to YouTube and look. YouTube is especially helpful with using Excel, because that stuff's over there. And how else do we use a database? Well, YouTube is a database because it's a collection of all that stuff, and then you search and get it. We can use mapping. Gives us the ability to use the database, and that is, we simply take a map and then we layer a template over it. We query it to get all kinds of information. And if you're carrying a phone or you have a Fitbit, that device provides information about your location. Or if you want to see the restaurant reviews, or if I go into Amazon, I'm looking for a book, if you're like me or something you're going to buy, you'll go and you'll see what people recommended, what they said. You'll see, like Amazon has 4 stars or 5 stars, that type of thing. And yeah, that just gives you a sense of a database and how to use it. And if any of you who took Business Goes to the Movies with me this last over J term, okay, one of the things I have you do is go out and use all the tools that are out there. There's so many places to go search for movies, okay, and I'll just show you something. You can see it up here on my toolbar. You can see it in my Hulu, okay. Hulu is a database. That's all it is, and they have some original content. The same story with Netflix. Same story with my cable operator. Okay, my cable is basically it's a database. I have certain types of programs I want to see, and I can go through it. A Turner Classic Movies (TCM). That's a database, and they have it set up so you can watch movies on demand, or you can watch movies live as they're being shown and presented, or you can buy DVDs of the old movies with extra special stuff, all these things, okay? And so often a database is a model for a business. Well, again, then you have a thing called a form. We'll talk about those, and that's how you put data into a database in a very easy form. Now, the truth is that when you and I go shop somewhere online, or you go to Netflix if you have it, or you go to Hulu if you have it, or if you have Cox has I forget what it's called, but it's an application that lets you watch. Pardon me, my cable provider, not Fox, my cable provider Cox lets me, it's Contour, that's what it's called. So for a few extra dollars a month, you see anything on your device that you want to see, okay? And so all of these utilize that process. Forms, and then of course the reports. And now it also mentions macros and modules. That's really for Visual Basic course, which is what this is not. Now, we're going to start with this with just looking at a database, okay? And I want to find something here that will give us a nice little bit of an overview. And I think I have Northwind's in here. Here it is, Northwind 2007-1. Now let's download it for a minute, and we're going to look at a template type of database, okay, that we can use. And I'll click on here, and we'll enable the content. Okay, and I'm logged in. Now, just in terms of navigation, this is a little page. This is a form that pops up that lets me then go over and do some tasks. And you remember when we did the one supplier where we had slow delivery, fast delivery, then one that was just customers. We recorded some keystrokes. And so we created a macro, and then we assigned it to a shape. Same deal here. And this little menu is designed for you. This is a dashboard, okay? And you're going to hear people talk about dashboards. Without a database, dashboards are useless. But what this says is, here's the stuff that I'm probably going to want to see first of all, or look at, or that I have to look at every day. When we have when we do queries, we have two types. One of them is a regular ongoing query, like in my little desktop here. And again, then I have those things called serendipitous or kind of off the wall, off the chart kinds of questions, and I use those here in my dashboard. And you can see that we have quantities available. How much do we need to order and the reorder level? Okay, and this gives us a picture of total revenue, any active orders. If we got anything out there that's hasn't been handled, who I am, etc. So that's a nice little piece, and we can do that. We can create a form and put it out there, and then embed them. Now I'm going to close this off for a minute. All right. And we're just talking about navigating through here. Now, if you look up here, you're going to see that Access has a toolbar that strangely resembles Excel and Word, particularly. And so we've got, home, create, external data, database tools, and we'll get into those. Okay. But as we come down here, we can see. Okay, we've got these different types of Access objects, okay? And then we have these queries, all right? And then we have some forms where we can input data, okay? And then we have some reports. Now let me say this, I'm not a fan of reports in Excel. I think they're very difficult to handle and work with. I tend, if I'm going to be doing a report, to run the query, okay, and then export it to Excel, and then embed it in the document that I'm using for my presentation. Or you can always do a screenshot and embed the screenshot. It doesn't really matter, okay? But I would say this, the report function, again, the screen can get clouded very fast, and it's clumsy. And the one thing that in Microsoft Access, let me say this is kind of like a database with training wheels. That's the only words I know to describe it, because it's intended to be used by folks who don't have tremendous needs for a really sophisticated database, but could use one. And it's also a great teaching tool, okay? Because everything we do here, you can do out there if you're the database administrator. You and I, as decision makers, are typically going to be running queries, okay? And pulling data, and we'll have an iconic view of that. And you say, what in the world do you mean by that? Well, let's pop up here for a minute, okay? And I'm going to look at these queries. We've got the reports, the macros, the modules. I'll find the queries. And I'm going to click on this sales reports dialog, okay? And I'm going to look at the design of that. All right. I'm going to go back up here. And this shows us a little form where we can go grab, okay, sales reports, monthly, quarterly, whatever, by category, by country. Now, notice I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, okay, types of data, and I've got 3 sales periods. So I have 15 ways I can analyze these data. And one of the reasons we want this is so powerful with the relational database is then I can start to see patterns, okay? And if I start to understand patterns, that's 90% of the ball game. All right, so we took a look at those, okay? that form. And now, pardon me, that was a form. Now here's a query. And let's look at this. Order details extended. And we're going to click the design view. Now notice, if I want to look at the guts of or take the back office of a query, okay, we'll take this here, grapple that down so we can see the iconic parts. And you know, we've got some tables that we're using. How do I know? Because I can see them down here in the query. And this is where we extend some order details. Okay, this has a thing called a expression in it. This tells us the tables that we're using, the fields that we're using, and here we've created what we call an expression. Now I'm going to go back up here to the view and let's take a look. Now you'll see, okay, there's one thing here that makes me a little crazy, which I would never, ever, ever, and that is missing data. One of the reasons that we use forms, as we see down here, is to make sure that we don't have records with anomalous data or missing data. Okay, I don't have date allocated for these. I have a purchase ID. Why would I have those fields? Why would I collect those monies, collect that data if I'm not gonna require it and I'm not going to use it? Okay, and so and this may be just a matter of, this is a template database with nothing in there, but in the real world you'll want all of this data. Now I can navigate views. Top view, that's the data sheet view. I can come down to the design view, or I can go down into the SQL view, and we're going to take a look at that here for just a second. Right now we're at the data sheet view. Okay. Now if I want to navigate, I can right click and do that, or I can come over here in the far left up here, and you'll see the views that I can get. Now, I'm going to go back down to the design view. All right, and you're going to see that we have a thing called extended price, which is a currency. That's the quarterly times unit price times 1 minus the discount. So we've got an extended price. Okay, and that C curve is a function, means currency. Now we'll go back up here, and we know we're dealing with the order details table. Okay, and why? Well, it tells us, and here in the expression we don't have a table, we've just created the expression. So let's go over to the order details table, and we'll scroll up, and we'll go down to the design view. Now you notice this thing here, it's called a primary key. A primary key, and in this case it's an auto number, meaning with each new record a new number is generated. And that's how we use a primary key to make sure that every record is unique. Okay? And here we have an order ID, product ID, quantity, and these are good. They're you see here, for example, on unit price, it's not required. That's kind of stupid. Why wouldn't you? Status ID. Well, I don't know why you would. See, I'm old school, but I believe you don't collect any of this unless you're required to be collected. Why do otherwise? Okay, so that's one piece of this that we're kind of looking at. All right. Now, again, like I said, Northwind Traders is kind of an example for everybody to take a look at, in terms of the of kind of a template that's out there for people that want to see what they could get or do with the database. Okay. Now we're going to go up here and we'll go back to the modules section. All right. And we're going to look at this file. All right. And we'll go down here to week 6. Okay. Here we are. And this says access case 1. Upload this case for access case 1 assignment. All right. I'm going to show you where those will be due. You can see the Excel cases. We've already worked ahead on them. Okay. And then there's exam 2. All right. And we come down into week 12, and the first 4 databases base cases are due. Okay. And then the next week, the last 5 and 6 are due. So we're going to work on them. Now, again, notice what I've got here on week 6. Upload this for access case 1 assignment. As I told you earlier, you can go into the files section and you can find any of those other ones, which are good examples of how to respond to case number 1. It'll be the same for case 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 that you can upload for the credit. That's why I call this a workshop, okay? Because I want you to understand what you're doing and why you're doing it, instead of just doing a bunch of following keystrokes or this or that. Let's open this up, okay? And again, I'm going to download that. And this is access case 1. And I'm going to save it on my desktop. All right. And I'm going to enable the content. And I'm going to click Save Database As. And I'm going to put it on my desktop. And I'm going to put this access case 1, Harmon Keith. And I'm going to save it on my desktop where I get to it and put it into the native environment, i.e. my machine. And then I'm going to diminish down and I'm going to find it. And there it is, right above, lurking right above Cardinal Buddy. And I'm going to open it up in here. All right. And I'm going to close it off. And then I'm ready, if I want, to upload it. And each time we do one of these, I would really recommend that you upload in advance. There's no point in turning them in late, because we're 2 or 3 weeks ahead of the game here. So, and we'll need the time. So it's important for you to just go ahead and get the credit. I've already got the files in there. If I look in and I do speed grade and I see that, yeah, I know that file, okay, I'm fine, okay? And, again, the recordings are here for you to take a look at and to use at your pace. Well, I'm going to open this back up, all right? And this deals with case number 1, all right? And this is just kind of an intro to it. All right, and what I'll do, we'll come back on Thursday, okay, and we'll do it in some more earnest. But let's look here for just a minute. Now, we know we can choose all access objects or particular types. Here we choose all access objects, okay, and notice we have a bunch of tables here. All right, And you're going to see, oh, this is for case 4? Yeah. This is a database. So we have tables in here that we use with different cases. For example, for Northampton, which is over on page, the Northampton case starts over on page 149. Here's the table that we would use for it. Here's the table we'll use for Hudson Palmer. You say, oh, okay. And really what this is this, while this access face, we would call it a database, it's actually a data warehouse. You say, what do you mean? Well, I've got all different types of tables in here related to all different types of situations. So it's like a warehouse. And I just use a query, just like I'd get, fire up a forklift and go back to the back and pick up a pallet of stuff, or have an empty pallet and begin to fill it up with orders. Of course, that's all automated now, which is an incredible thing to see. But we're going to talk about this, and we're going to just open up. We're going to look at the Northampton case 1 and click on Design View. All right. Let's talk about what we're looking at. The design view is right under the data sheet view. Here's the data sheet view. But if we want to see how this is put together, then we'll go down to the design view. You'll notice here we have a field name called ID. It's an auto number. In other words, each new record is a new number. That's how we make sure that we have unique records. And that's what that little key is all about. Then we have the company, the address, the city, the state, all this type of information. We get the department. We've got the product groups, the last time that people ordered, that's a date and time, and an order pattern. Is it going up or is it going down? Now, the field name is some variable, some characteristic, some piece of information that's not counted, but we're interested in, okay? And I can look at this and say this is about who does business with us, who's our contact person, what did they buy from us, what type of product did they buy, and then specifically what product did they buy from us or type of product, and then when was the last time they did that. And in terms of the number of orders, is it going up, is it going down, or is it pretty much stable? Okay. And you'll notice as we come down, it has some things called field properties. And that's for each and every one of these where we look at the data type. There are two things with data type we have to think about. Number one, we want to make sure that we use a data type that can contain everything we need in terms of characters, numbers, exclamation points, periods, all the stuff that goes into what we call a string. Okay, that I have enough room, but I don't take up too much room. Now, with this few, classes are here in this example. Really, this is an example, okay, but we'll work on it. Yeah, when you start talking 50 million records, this becomes significant, and so you want to be always thinking about how those data are stored. All right, this will be these are the kinds of things that database administrators have to grapple with all of the time. And it will make you more sympathetic to the situation they're going through. And hopefully, if you design something and say, well, can you guys input this into the database, you'll have enough of an understanding about some of the challenges you may create for them. Well, let's look at this. It's got an auto number, and we see the general field properties. Same thing for company, the address, the city. And then we get down to the state, and we get to the zip code. Now, on zip code, I want you to notice something on the field properties, and that's below. It uses a thing called an input mask, okay? And I'm gonna click and then go up and take a look at their input mask. An input mask is a way that I control how people put data into a record so that everything in the record is uniform, it's manageable, and it works. Here in this case, we're going to have a phone number, and we use the input mask, so the phone number looks like this. Now notice they have one for zip codes, and we'll finish this here, and we'll click on zip code. We're on zip code, aren't we? And let's go back up here. Here it is. I'm sorry, jumped ahead. We've got the format mask for that. And then I want the, did I have a phone number in here? No. Okay. And so now here's something that's interesting. All right. And I'm going to go over to, I'm going to click back up to the view. And I'll put no, we'll leave the table, and we'll just open it back up. Okay, we'll save the table. Notice something. Now, if you come over and you look at zip code, okay, this shows us, you know, the format in which the numbers should be, and we fill them out. Okay, now we've got the state over here, and we don't want to spell out Massachusetts or Mississippi, so we use the abbreviation. Okay, and I've got this, so I would probably want to use a lookup table that would create a little down, would create a little down, a menu, drop down menu of states and the abbreviation, so I can just choose the abbreviation. Okay, and I'm gonna you know, and I would want to do the same thing with the product group and the order pattern. Okay, and so we'll do that next time when we go over this, so that you can see for yourself how this helps us, because we want to control the input. Now I'm going to go back down to the design view, and the very first thing I'm going to start to look at is what we call table constraints. The ID up here, okay, is an auto number. It's indexed, and there are no duplicates. So every record is unique. Let's click on company. Is the name of the company required? Well, it should be. It's ignorant not to, because if you don't know who they are, that does you no good. And so this is the kind of thing that, in terms of it being required, I'd want that to be yes. Okay, and then they say, they ask us about is it indexed, and it's not, which is an important thing if you've got hundreds of thousands of records. Otherwise, at the record levels, it's not that big of a deal. Indexing just simply means that the the machine can go in and search in the more logical places. For example, with last names, there's a cluster in the middle of the alphabet where those last names cluster there. So the quickest thing is to go there first, thinking that's probably where you're going to find it, rather than going through every single record. And then we see something here about allowing zero length. Well, that's probably not too smart, because that means we can end up with empty data in the cell that's supposed to in that record. And then we come down here and we have, is it required? Again, we would want to work with this. Then we come to the address. Okay. Now on the company, we might even go so far as to create what we call a lookup menu, okay, of our companies. And again, we're looking at essentially how a table's put together. And this could use some work. Here's the first name, again, ought to be required. The department ought to be required. The product group and last order, and then the order pattern. Okay, now let's go back up to the data sheet view for a moment, and we'll scroll over here. And we see the order pattern. Now I want you to notice something. It looks like I may have created for us a drop-down menu. So as I move this out a little bit, okay, I see IDS, and I did. So what'd you do there? I created a drop-down menu, okay? Okay, and that way I know what an I, if the orders are increasing, I know that's an I. If they're decreasing, I know it's a D. If they're stable, I know it's an S. Now I'm going to go back into the design of this thing and go down to the order pattern, and I'll show you what we're talking about. When you click on order pattern, all right, come down and look for a thing called the lookup pattern, lookup tab. There it is. Okay, and basically what we do is we use a thing called a combination box to run a query on another table that we can pull data from for our record. Okay, and then we can just use the you use drop down menus all the time. That's all this is about, so that the input's structured. Now the column widths are a little bit out of control, so I'm going to come over here and I'm going to make the first one a 1 inch, and then I'll put a colon, a semicolon, and the second would be we can make it 1 inch as well. And let's see what we get. We'll go back up here. I'll ask you want to save it. Yes. All right. Now I'm going to scroll over here to the order pattern. Isn't that nice? Now we could do that for product group. Okay. We could do that for what we call slowly changing dimensions. This would be good. All right. And then we could do it for the states. Okay. And we put in the name of the state. Now we've got an input for our zip code, and I don't see that we have a phone number in here. So we might want to get their phone number. Now we've got the last order. Okay, and so far so good. Now I think I have the file over here. Okay, but if not, we can create a little lookup, okay, for each of these states. And I'm going to go diminish this for a moment and go back into my files. Okay, and I think I have state lookup codes. And if not, we'll go out and we'll do it, and we'll do a little bit of data wrangling. Okay. Well, let's see if I've got them here. Apparently not. That's okay. I'm going to click on a fresh tab here for just a second. Okay. Well, we'll do that on Thursday, because I want to spend a little bit more time on our database to look at a couple of other things. So let's close the table off. And we'll say yes, and keep the changes. All right. Well, now you see this table called order pattern? That's what we queried to get those. Now, let's go back. We're working on case one. Okay, the Hamilton, and we're going to let's go down here and look at some queries. Okay, and this is a thing called Kansas City clients. Click on, open it up. All right, and we want, and one of the tasks that they'll have us do, we'll look at this on Thursday in the Northampton case, all right, is that they want us to find their Kansas City clients. If I'm not mistaken, it's this one. Yeah, this does go with Northampton. Now let's go down to the design view. Remember, I can click here, or I can come up over here in the toolbar. And I'm going to go down into the design view. And notice something, what we've got. We've got the company name, and we know the table. We got the first name, the last name, and then we have the city. And these are all from that Northampton Case 1 table. And notice we used a criterion. Kansas City. Okay? Now, I want you to notice something. This isn't check marked. And the reason it's not check marked is because it's going to provide us a bunch of redundant pieces of a record. I'll show you. I put that there. And I'm going to run that query. And look, Kansas City, Kansas City, Kansas City. Not smart. A lot of gunk. So I'm gonna unclick that. And I will just simply run this. Now I get the same results, but I hid the city. And what I did was I just simply named the query Kansas City clients. Okay. So in that case, I'm not looking at Kansas City, Kansas City. I just have the company, the first name, the last name. Okay. Now I might be interested in their order patterns. So I'm still working with Northampton. There's the case. And I'm going to put in last order. And I want that last order to be in descending. Let me see, that would be the earliest. Yeah, because descending would be I'm putting them in ascending order. And let's look up here. And here it tells me who ordered last. Now, I know this is somebody I need to contact because they haven't ordered anything from us. And I can go over and let's see. We could do their we have the last order. We could get the order pattern. And we'll see this is decreasing, pardon me, and these are increasing. And so we've done a little bit of work with this query, embellished it a little bit more. I'm going to close this off now. I want to show you one other thing, and now we're kind of working through this. And again, we'll work through the case number 1 Northampton abrasives in earnest on 30. Let me see. I have a question here. Let me see if I can take it. How do we get to the table at the bottom of the query where I'm editing things to appear? Okay. How do I get to the table? Okay. I'm not quite sure what you mean. How do you get to that table at the bottom of the query where you have editing thing? Okay. Well, let's open up. I'm going to run a query. Maybe this will help you. Let's click create. Okay. And let's go and let's click home and then click create. And let's use the query design. Click on that. Okay. Now we're going to pull some data off of a table called 1 month. And so I'm going to click add, and it adds that table. All right. And I'm going to close this off. All right. This is for case number 7, which we won't do, but that's okay. But this is the one, this is a table. All right. And now I simply get I simply call the fields that I want to get. So I'm going to get month, ID, last name, hours worked, and the hourly rate, the gross pay, the federal tax, the state tax, the FICA, and the net pay. Okay. And now I'm ready, and I'm going to run this. I'll come up here to the left, and I'll run. Well, now before I do that, okay, when I run a query, all right, I choose the table, and that was that little box I got. And again, if I want to add another table, I can click Show Table, and there's a little dialog box. And I could choose a table if it's related. Okay. If it's tied to another, and then I'll run the query, and here we are. Now, I want to show you something. This is a. Let me stop. Did I answer your question? Let me know if I answered your question. Okay, excellent. Good. Very good. Thank you. Now, I want to show you guys something. As you've heard me say many, many times, let a database be a database. Okay. Let a spreadsheet be a spreadsheet. Now, if I wanted to, I can write what we call expressions for every one of these figures. I know that the gross pay is going to be the hours worked times the hourly rate, and then I can have some percentage for federal tax, some for state tax, and percentage for FICA, and my gross minus the tax equals my net pay. And I can write expressions in this query to get that data. But actually, it's kind of stupid, because I could take this query, okay, and I'm going to close it off, and I'm going to save it and I'm going to call it Excel is for computing. And I'll click OK. All right. And I'm going to close this off. All right. So I have this query over here called Excel is for computing. And I've closed off. And notice it's under the queries section. And I'm going to export this. And I'm going to export it to Excel. All right. And I'm going to find out where I want to put it. And I'm going to put it over here on my desktop. And I'm going to save it. And I'll close off. Now I'm going to go back now down to my desktop, and I'm going to find it. Okay. And let's see here. Should be in an Excel format. Pretty sure I threw it over here. I'll find it here in just a second. Excel. I know I saved it on here so I could use it. All right. I may have to do this again. Didn't think I would. History is case 1. And hang on a minute. Where did I throw this? Well, I'll just do it again, because I'm not seeing it on my on here. So Excel is for computing, and I'll export it to Excel, and I'm going to put it here in desktop in an Excel workbook book. I'll click it, and the program is going to tell me it's already here, stupid. And so I should see the file for my desktop. Excel is for computing. So let me find it. Here it is. I'm sorry. Now, I'm going to open this up. All right. And I'm back in the friendly confines of Excel Park. Okay. And let's say, for example, now we can do their gross pay. That's going to be easy. Watch. We've done this many, many times before. This is going to equal. And I'm going to keep that because I'm working in that column. So it's going to be E2. Okay. And that's going to be times D2. And I'll put D column. Boom. And I will go all the way down to get the gross pay for each of those people. And then I can also go in and I can put it into money. Listen, if I was going to write the expression to do this, just for this one column, I'm going to do a lot more work if I am in Access writing expression. Now we'll write a few of them, but beyond that, if I'm going to do much, heavy lifting, then I'm going to bring it over to Excel because it's just what it's designed for. Now let's say the federal tax on this, and I'm going to put the tax rates. I'm going to put a thing on here called tax rates. Okay, and the Fed. I think let's call that, I don't know. Let's call it 0.14 of the gross. The state. Let's make that like, I don't know, let's make that 0.06, okay? And the FICA, that's usually going to be 7.5%, if I'm not mistaken, 0.075, okay? You say, oh, you're creating some assumptions, aren't you? Yep, that's what I'll be doing. And so I'm going to get the federal tax. It's going to equal, okay? In fact, just to make this easier, I can use the name manager, our old friend, the name manager. Okay. And I'll click on formulas. Okay. Or is it data? It's formulas. I want to define a name. And it's going to be the Fed. Okay. And then I'll define another name. And that'll be state. And then I'll define another name. And that will be FICA. And this is going to equal F2. I'll make that into a dollar sign times the Fed. Boom. And then I'll just drag and drop it. And so you say, okay, so what you do, Dr. Harmon, is you go ahead and do all this, right? Okay, then what? Well, once I'm finished, I'm going to export this back in. So I don't see any real need to complete this. I mean, you could do it, but just by way of example. Now I'm going to save this file. I'll make sure I save it. Excel is for computing. I'm going to put it on the desktop. Okay? I'm going to save it. Right. And we're good. Now I'm going to close it off. And I'm going to back up here. And I'm going to go back to my Access file. All right? And I'm going to click external data, and I'm going to click access, and then I'm going to go find it. I know it's on the date up here, and I'm just going to put EX, and it will tell me Excel is for computing, and I'll click open, and then click OK, and I'm going to get the dialog box for importing this. Okay, and I'll click next, and I'll make sure first row contains headings, and I'll click next, and I'll click next, and I'm going to let access add a primary key. It doesn't play nice if it does. It insists on it, and I'll finish. Okay, and let's see. Do I want to overwrite the editing? Yes. Now we have a new query. Okay, we should have it in here. Excel is for computing, and it's probably stored up here in the tables. Let's go find it, and there it is. Okay, and now I have the table, and notice I didn't put in the percentage formula, so this isn't showing up. But you could see how much easier it would be. Okay, these came out as zeros because I referenced back to some cells instead of just doing simple math. Okay, and so it gave me that, and so now I could do that for all these to get to the net pay. All right, now I'm going to close this off, and if I want to put this into a query form, I'm going to click Home, then Create. And I'm going to call it Query Design, and I'm going to come up and find that Excel is for computing table. I'm going to add it. I'm going to close it. And if I want to see everything, I'll just do that. And then I'll do the data sheet view. There it is. And so this just shows us some of the interoperability we have, but also the ways that we can sometimes strategize. And again, if you have some heavy lifting to do in terms of computation, do it in Excel and then dump it back in, here to dump it back into Access. Okay, and if I had, I could also obviously reverse the process by exporting this to Excel and this just doing whatever work I had to. But I took the Excel, I worked on it, and then I dumped it back in here. So this is one of the nice things about databases, is that it has ways for us to get external data. Well, listen, it's 1:53, and we've covered some ground, and we'll be ready, I think, to take a look at Northampton Abrasives, which is case number, first access case. And we'll look at it, as I told you, we'll take it kind of slow, okay? And that way we can work through it and have a good degree of comfort with working with it, okay? So I'm gonna close this off. And if you say, okay, I want to go ahead and just make sure I don't forget to not upload something for case 1, what should I do? Well, my friends, you can either do this. You can go into the module section, okay, and go down there to module 6 or week 6. I probably should just start calling these modules, but I think it confuses things because everybody's thinking how many weeks are left, etc. And here's, you can upload this where you're supposed to turn in the access case number 1. There's all of them are due back there, so you could upload it there. Or you could get one of the files that deals with access number 1 that are in here. Or you could upload something we work on Thursday. It matters not to me, okay? just don't forget to upload something for case number 1. And then as we move through the cases, you'll do it for 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. But in the meanwhile, we'll look at and we'll learn a bit. Well, listen, thank you for your time. I appreciate it. And I will be over there Thursday, heroic figure that I am, and many people have already left. In fact, everybody has left because class is over and they got to be gone. But you can catch us on the back end. And folks, God bless you. And I'll be over there Thursday, and we'll do the class. And then you have a great, great, great spring break. Thanks a lot. Have a good one.